From the heart of Dubai, where tomorrow is being built today, to the world. Welcome to the CTO Show with Mehmet. Here, we redefine technology and reimagine possibilities. With Mehmet, delve into the riveting realms of AI, cybersecurity, and digital technology. Experience the thrilling highs and lows of startups. Immerse yourself in the spirit of entrepreneurship and witness the future of business innovation being written in real time. Now, without further ado, let's tune in and explore the future.
Hello and welcome back to a new episode of the CTO Show with Mehmet. Today, I'm very pleased to have Joseph joining me from Sydney, Australia. I'm very pleased that we are starting to get more guests from that part of the world. Joseph, thank you very much for being on the show with me today. Can you please introduce yourself and what you do?
Yeah. So first, thank you for having me on the show.
My pleasure.
Yeah. So I'm Joe for short, Joseph Azar. I've been in the tech industry professionally for 23 years, which makes me seem a bit older. And unprofessionally, I've been, since I was 12 years old, involved in the tech industry, computers and programming and all of that. I've been, I guess since I've moved to Sydney, I've been the CTO for a company called Foresight helmets. We mass produced the first ECE certified smart motorcycle helmet in the world. I've been with them for 5 years now, and I've moved on. Well, I'm still consulting with them, but I've opened my own company, which is Azar Consulting, because I want to help other tech startups, companies with their tech products and scaling up. And yeah, it's been an exciting journey.
It's indeed an exciting journey, Joseph. Um, what you have done, I mean, with the foresights. So it's like the first, as you mentioned, smart motorcycle helmet. Can you walk us through the initial stages of developing, the product, and what were the main challenges, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah. So just to clarify something, it's not the first smart helmet in the world. It's the first mass-produced smart helmet in the world, in the sense that there's a lot of companies that try to create their own smart helmet. Some of them had heads-up displays. Some of them had, just comms integrated. Unfortunately, all of them failed. And the reason for that, I think, in my opinion, is because they overshot the features. So they've promised the customers so many features that they weren't able to actually, get into the market. And with Foresight, we were always grounded, and we were always, we always had our feet on the ground, in the sense that we never overpromised customers things that we couldn't deliver, and we didn't think that were technically possible. And we all were in the office. We're all motorcycle riders. This is a passion more than a product that we wanted to get into the market. We wanted to get it ourselves first, and then hopefully, because of our passion, then we can get customers involved in the journey. And this has been, I guess, our goal since day one, to get our customers involved in the journey. So the product was kind of developed with customers' feedback. So since the inception of the idea, and since we came up with the idea, it was always, hey guys, what do you think of this? Or hey, what do you think of including that feature in the product? So it grew from just an idea on a napkin to a 6,000, a member group on Facebook, which then evolved into us asking the customers what they wanted and them coming back to us saying, yes, we think this feature is a good one and this one we wouldn't be using. And yeah, I guess here we are now, 5 years later, with 6,000 products sold in the market. We cover USA, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and parts of Europe.
That's great, Joseph, to hear
Yep.
that.
Yeah. To go back to your question, the hurdles. Well,
Mhm.
besides pandemic, 2 years in lockdown in Sydney. I don't know if you guys had the same issue on your end, but we were locked in our houses for 2 years, which means, it makes it difficult for us to work together and collaborate, especially if it's a hardware product. Um, and then we had so many delays on uh, components because, it,
Mhm.
it's a product that's created in Australia, developed in Australia, but it's manufactured in Taiwan. So trying
Yeah.
to organize the shipment of components, the delays from lockdowns, delays from, I guess, shipping and freight forwarding issues because of the pandemic. And yeah, that was our main hurdles, technology.
Yeah, that's great to hear the story and how you overcame it. We were lucky here in Dubai because we just sat in the houses for 2 months, I believe, that time. I believe it was from mid-April up to, and in May, everything started not to become normal, of course, but we were allowed to move at least. So, and this is something I have to give the credit. They handled here, from government perspective, very, very well. We didn't face this at all. So, um, you mentioned something, Joseph, which like immediately something came to my mind.
Yep.
You
Go ahead.
you talked about how was important not to put all the features and then slowly build the product. And I want to hear, from you about why this is important in startups in general. Because what we see, sometimes founders, they became so excited about their ideas and they want to build the whole thing from day one. So if you can shed some light on this part from your experience as well, why this is very crucial and important in startups.
Yeah. So I guess it's not based on, um, I would say, it's not just based on not including all of the features from day one, right?
Hmm.
Because it's a balance between, your vision, your imagination, and what can and can't be achieved, right? So with Foresight, it was, to be honest, we all want the Iron Man experience, right? We want to put
Yeah.
on a helmet and then be able to see things the way Iron Man does. But and that's one of the reasons we actually went into the project, because we wanted that experience. But first of all, Iron Man is a Marvel comic, and then the technology is not there, right? So everyone wants to put AR in a helmet or AR in glasses, or now Apple's new product is out in the market. It's I think the technology is not there yet because we expect it to achieve more than what it can, like technologically, if I can say. So
Hmm.
it's both. It's you trying to gauge the expectation because you want customers to actually buy the product, try it out, and actually have a fun and interesting experience, right? Because
Right.
that's the whole point of putting the product out there. At the same time, you don't want to overpromise things that you can't achieve. So it was always a balance between our passion, our vision, our imagination, and what we can and can't achieve. And I think from day one, if you think of any product that's going out in the market, you want the customer to actually enjoy it and use it, and it providing some kind of value. So if you go to the customer and say, "We're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to, put a rocket on the moon," and then you end up giving them something that's, I wouldn't say 90%. It's always 20% of what you promise, right? So if you manage to not put all of the promises from day one and say,
Hmm.
okay, this is what we're going to achieve, this is what the product's going to do, and we're going to try to push the boundaries. But if we can't, we can't, but we're going to try, right? And then from day one, when you launch a product, you need to keep something in the back burner, right? Because if you give them all of the features in one go, then why would anyone, keep coming back, right? Because you want them
100%.
to keep coming back, um, with new ideas, new features, new things that your product can deliver. And that's why we try to stop at an MVP, as you call it in the startup world. And the MVP is always what can be achieved with whatever technology you're using, and then later on go for the next phase and give more features and give, I guess, more upgrades.
Yeah, that's correct. And I agree with you, Joseph. And my way, and not even in like for startups, is usually set expectation with the customer that you are sure you can do and actually try to overachieve it. So like under promise instead of over
Exactly.
promise.
Yes. Yeah.
And
That's
right.
that's
So
my approach to everything. Always under promise, overachieve.
yeah, and the customers love it because when someone expects from you, let's say this pen, and then you give them the nice styled you know you know
Yeah, definitely.
with a brand or something, they will appreciate it much. And because this is also, I'm mentioning this for fellow startup founders, and this will give you also guys authority, and it will give you authenticity, and will give you also like people will give trust in you and in your startup in the future. Now, Joseph, one
Yeah, and
thing.
and it
Yeah, please
also
go ahead.
depends on integrity and honesty, and
Yeah,
being very transparent to the customer, because unfortunately, once you lose that trust, you can't gain it back, right? So you
100%.
always need to have this two-way trust between you and your customers, because you don't want to get to a point where they say, "Oh, but yeah, they've always, said we're going to release this, and they never did." Like, look at, and I don't mean to, I guess, talk negatively about Tesla, but look at the whole Tesla approach about, having an automated self-driving car, right? This was the whole point of having a Tesla. And
Right.
now, like a few years later, we don't even have, a decent self-driving car. So the over promising customers to get them to buy in is not a good thing, because it eventually, gets you to a point where nobody believes what you say.
100%, 100%, Joseph. Now, one thing also you mentioned, and I want to ask you also how this was crucial for you at Foresight and, in general. Like, you were listening to your customers and you mentioned like you had a Facebook group. Like,
Yep.
how important to keep listening to your customers down the road? And for you, for example, how you were handling the demand, or maybe sometimes some customers might give negative feedback as well. So how do you prepare yourself also to be humble, let's say, when dealing in listening or talking directly to your customers?
Yeah. Well, it's difficult, I would say. You know, I've been in the industry for quite some time, and it's never easy to listen bad feedback. Especially if you have an emotional investment in the product that you've made, because it's kind of like, somebody coming and saying bad things about your kids. No matter how bad your kids are, you still love them and you still care for them, and you feel insulted and offended if somebody talks negatively about them. So I would say try to approach it in a mature, um, distant way, but still kind of have a balance between your emotional involvement in it, but at the same time, see it from their perspective. I think the thing that um, most founders maybe lack because of their visionary personality is empathy, right? So because you need to feel how your customers feel about your product so that you can then understand where they're coming from and be able to use this feedback in enhancing your product.
Right.
And I would say another, I would say, advice would be don't implement everything that customers ask for, right? Because you have customers asking for, things that you can't achieve. Some of them ask for um, features that may or may not be worth including in your product. You need to filter that information and use analytic to determine what can and can't be included in the future release, right? So I'll give you an example. The way we did it in Foresight is um, we take all of the requests of our customers, we filter them down, we pick the top 10, and then
Mm-hmm.
we post in the group a poll saying what do you guys think? Pick based on the features that you like and rate the ones, starting from 10 to 1. And
Mm-hmm.
then take that feedback and then pick the top 3 and work on those top 3.
Very,
This
very
way,
good
yeah,
way.
this way you can kind of gauge what brings in benefit and what
Mm-hmm.
doesn't, and what the majority of your customers do, not just one person asking for one feature. You want the majority of the customers to weigh in options.
100%, Joseph. And I can give my experience from also consulting perspective. Especially when you work with startups that you are trying to get their products in front of clients.
Yep.
um, one way, for founders, actually, like the way you mentioned is very straightforward, and it will give them even some metrics. But other way, on the long run, maybe you start to ask, okay, is it like something have to have, or is it good to have?
Yeah,
Because
exactly. Yeah.
yeah, because sometimes we need, and it depends, of course, on which type of startup you are in. But sometimes, and this is on the founders and their team, we need to educate also our to be customer or prospect about the technology, and whether is it something really, because we are trying at the end of the day to either offer something which let their life be better, or maybe reduce a pain. So all startups, like, they are all about that, even if it's entertainment. By the way, you are trying to make the guys lives more like happy. So you need to see, like, the degree. You need to measure and ask him, okay, do you really want this, or is it good to have? So I think this is a good hack that I used to and I still ask, and I still always use it, and it works. Because when you ask it in a question format, the prospect or your to be customer or existing customer will think one moment, oh, okay, really, maybe really I don't need this feature. Like something just fancy on the product or whatever. Now,
Yeah.
yeah,
On
go
that
ahead.
subject, we had one customer ask for if we can integrate an air conditioning system into one of our helmets. So it's a bit wild, but you get these customers asking for things that you can't achieve or wouldn't even be, interesting to have. So you have to filter them down and decide what goes in the product eventually.
Yeah, 100%. Um, Now I want to ask you, Joseph, about some key leadership principles, especially like for someone who's going to be a CTO of a company, about helping driving innovation, like how important is to put this culture of innovation and foster this culture. Can you provide, your opinion on this and some, examples from what you have done with Foresight?
Yeah, so I would say there it's not principles, it's more of a personality trait.
Hmm.
Um, and something that I keep like to keep focusing on is emotional intelligence, which is, everybody out there is trying to focus on IQ, right?
Hmm.
How smart you are, how good with numbers you are, and that sometimes they neglect to focus on EQ, which is, you know, having empathy, having um, this passion for your product, having maturity. Um, I guess in all of the companies that I've worked in or been a part of, um, founders, not specifically founders, but people in leadership roles, they tend to forget looking at things from two perspectives, right? It's not from the business perspective, it also from the employee perspective. And I guess in one of the events, somebody asked about a question, and they focused on how all these big tech companies talk about families. And I say families in double quotes because they reference their employees as families, but then, you look at the news and you see thousands and thousands of people getting laid off, and you think, okay, well, why are you calling them family when you turn around and, as soon as your bottom line is at risk, you start laying off these people? And it's such a sad thing in the tech world because it affected so many people. I was looking at some article saying 86,000 employees lost their jobs because of these tech companies. I, I understand, uh, it's business at the end of the day, but
Hmm.
at the same time, just why label them as your family when you want to turn around and, lay them off? And something that I guess, sorry, I'm cutting you off there, Mehmet.
No, no, no.
Um, yeah, so something that I think we managed to do well in Foresight is focus on our team as much as focusing on VCs and customers, right? So it's a three pillar approach. You have your VCs on one side, which is, where the money is coming from. You have your customers, which you need to make happy, but you also have your employees, which you need to take care of. Because if you can't take care of your employees can't take care of you. So I guess my one advice, regardless of what business you're in, focus on all of them at the same time. Don't neglect any side of your business because it might come back and bite you in the ass.
Yeah, Joseph. Just out of curiosity, Foresight were backed by VCs, or was it like a bootstrap business?
No, it's actually backed by a VC. Well, multiple VCs.
Okay. Okay. Now, just on the topic you mentioned, and you saw me get excited where you were talking because because I can I'm not exaggerating, but I can write maybe not one book. I can write books about this, and
Yep.
um, it touched me emotionally because I had a lot of friends working for companies, tech companies, and they were let off. And I like when you said, don't call them family. And, honestly speaking, one of the things that I wanted to do different in this podcast is it's not like just to point on them and say you are guys all together fake or all wrong, but really I could not, anymore accept, seeing these posts. And I know maybe if someone is watching or listening, maybe some guys will be pissed off of me. That's fine. Like I accept that. But what I don't like, or I feel it like it's like a theater or a cinema, whatever you want to call it. When everything is okay, we see these guys, the same guys, taking photos. I work for X hashtag. X is the best company in the world, best technology. I have no doubt you have the good technology. And
Yep.
then the day comes, right? And then, you know what? You discover that you were that, as a one famous guy, James Welch, Justin Welch, he's very active on LinkedIn. He pointed out you are in a cell in an Excel sheet because when things start to go bad, and as you said, it's business, 100%. But yeah, don't call them family. I'm
Yep.
100% with you, Joseph, on this. Not only that, and guys, maybe one day I will go back to corporate world. I don't know. No one can predict his future. But if even I come back to corporate world, one thing, no, the company is not my family. It's a place where I'm offering my service. I'm selling my time to offer my service. This is the way how I see it because I had a lot of friends who lost their jobs. I had a lot of friends who became in depression. And what's happened with, and they are still
Yep.
doing it because at the time of pandemic, and sorry, Joseph, it should be about you, not about me, but you
No,
brought
no,
a
no.
very
Of
good
course, I
point.
agree, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing that, and this is the last thing I want to mention, because someone during, the pandemic, when all, like some companies, they saw very high growth, they started to hire these people without doing any planning. And then what they
Yep.
call it a depression, a recession, sorry, which is no one even sure is it a recession or not. Predictably, and just not to be in trouble, let's lay off these people. Okay, again without planning. So this is where I have to stand and I have to say, with all due respect to the CEOs, the founders, to the executives, to the chief of staffs in these companies, guys, you need to be more, I would say, better at planning because,
Yep.
and you don't need to write these, you know, I'm very sorry, like we consider them part of the family. No, you don't consider them part of the family. They are just for you a number. And as
Yeah.
Joseph said, don't do it. And this is for founders, guys. If you like, don't put big, uh, I would say, big goals for yourself if it's gonna hurt people. What I mean, if you want to do IPO, but in order to do the IPO, you have to fire people, and you need to put these things in the future. Don't do it because people will not work
Yeah.
for you anymore. Sorry, Joseph. Like
Yeah.
I took this, but
No,
I
no,
needed to
no. I
highlight
agree.
this.
I wanted to add to that though, Mehmet.
Sure.
I don't know if you saw a post that I had. I think it was last week. So something that also pissed me off was it's not just the fact that they specify or they mention family when they're talking about their employees. It's the fact that I think what was it? Facebook fired about 20,000 or 22,000 employees. And then last week I saw somebody posting on LinkedIn saying, and that person works in Meta, uh, talking about the year-on-year growth of
Mm,
11% this quarter just by focusing on their ad content on Meta. And I was like, you guys are boasting about your year-on-year growth after you've laid off 22,000 people. How does that look? When you've been part of that layoff and you look at that and think, well, I just lost my job. I've been out of a job for 6 months, and now Meta's talking about year-on-year growth of 11%.
Yeah.
That's something that also pissed me off, and I couldn't hold it, so I had to make a post about it.
No, for me, Joseph, like what I can say about myself, I cannot accept. Um, I cannot see something which is not in line with justice, especially for companies that they claim, like they are human. They are like, they consider
Yeah,
everyone as part of their
philanthropy
family.
and yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So yeah, it's not like to shame them, or it's not like to directly criticize. But honestly, like I got very annoyed by first hearing this news, and second, I'm telling like I'm maybe some of my friends now they think like kind I'm a rebel, and I'm telling them it's not like about being a rebel. It's about like you understanding that when you are working for a company, this company might lay you off anytime. It might not, but you have to put this into mind. And you need to understand, especially if it's a company backed by VCs, and that's where you were mentioning. This is why I asked you,
Yep,
Joseph.
yep,
Like VCs, they need money, and then they will put their pressure on the founders, and the founders will have to put pressure on their sales teams, and then their sales team will put
yep.
pressure on you as an employee, and it's like an endless loop of pressure and stress. And you see people, like getting mental health issues. You see people under stress all the time. For what, guys? For what? Because a couple of
Yeah,
VCs they
exactly.
are not happy with the performance. Anyway,
Yeah.
like, but
We
it was a
digress.
good yeah, yeah, yeah. It was a good, like I felt I
You felt
also like
vindicated.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Now
Well,
let's
I'm glad.
let's let's shift gears. Yeah.
Yep,
Let's shift gears like with Joseph, like and talk about your own consulting company and your tailored you are offering
yep.
what's called virtual CTO services to suit different startups
Yeah,
and
I think
SMEs.
it's they've labeled it in so many ways. You've got fractional CTO, you've got
Mhm.
virtual CTO, you've got CTO as a service. So I didn't know what to choose, so I went with the first option available, which is a virtual
Good.
CTO. But it's not a it's one of the services that I'm providing. It's not the main service, but it's
Mhm.
something to kind of cater to all of the tech startups or the startups that are launching a product. And the thing is, I'm sorry, I can't do it. I can't just get involved in the tech. I get involved in everything. So every company that brings me in, I end up advising them on sales, end up advising them on marketing, even though it's not my area of expertise. But and I make sure that they understand that. I tell them based on my experience, this is what I've seen in the market, and this is what I've seen work and not work. Uh, yeah, so it's very difficult to uh, for me, it's very difficult to separate myself from the product and from that customer when I'm talking to them, right? Because it's not about getting paid and then going home and whatever happens happens. For me, it's more about the partnership in the sense that I'd like to see them succeed because then I can feel better about myself. I can sleep better at night knowing that I've helped somebody. If I get paid for it, great. If I don't get paid for it, sometimes I do it for free just because I have this, passion for the product and what this company is doing.
That's great.
So
I
yeah,
think
I
Joseph,
mean,
we are seeing
yeah,
more of this, by the way, like having a fractional, not only CTOs. I started
yeah,
to
fractional everything.
fractional same. Yeah. Do you think there's a reason for that? And is it related to what we were discussing just a couple of minutes back?
Uh, I don't actually know. I thought about it, but think it's more about how more startups are trying to bootstrap their business instead of
Mhm.
relying heavily on VCs, like you said. So, bootstrapping a business is not an easy thing, right? You have to have a high risk tolerance and a somehow a bit of a deep pocket to be able to, launch a business and believe in your business enough to invest your own money into it. And the reason more fractional C level is popping up is because then they can hire you for a small period of time, benefit from your experience and whatever you can bring to the business, and then turn that tap off whenever, uh, cash is tight.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think
Uh,
it's a good thing because, more companies can use C-level employees with large experience without having to, hire them for a year or 2 years or, a long period of time.
that's true. And this is exactly the same feedback. And actually, it's a win-win for both direction, I would say, or for both um, stakeholders. Because for startup founders, they don't have to put a lot of maybe salaries and maybe give some some shares and some equity maybe to these
Yeah, yeah,
co-founders.
exactly.
And on the other side, it gives people, and by the way, I do the same, Joseph, as well. So it gives us like an opportunity to be working with multiple technologies at the same time, multiple startups at the same time, which is like a nice experience. Like, like now it's good to be on the kind of a consultant where you help them in you become their CMO as a service, your CTO as a service, or CRO as a service as chief revenue officer. So all this, I think it's a win-win situation. But as usual, I'm not saying this will be mainstream because no one can predict the future. And pandemic, as you mentioned
Yeah,
at the
true.
beginning, like was the first
Yeah,
the main thing. Let us know not everything can be predictable, but it's a mainstream, and I believe it has to do also with all these people who were let off and they know they can offer their services. So maybe it's also like igniting, I would say this. Now,
yeah.
Joseph,
What
like
kind of
when
services do you provide?
so for
Is
me,
it
it's like similar
a
to you.
virtual or fractional CTO? Okay,
So I'm yeah. So I don't call it fractional. I call it like co-founder as a service. Like, and because
okay,
I have experience in both business and tech. So it's whether they want to build an MVP. So I don't build the MVP myself, but can I advise them? On which route they can go if they want to go and expand in a new market. So maybe they are in Europe and they want to start in the Middle East. So they don't know anything about the market.
okay.
So this is where
Yeah,
I can advise these startups. But they will be mainly like not startups anymore. Maybe they start to become a scale up. Then they are looking for new markets to join. So yeah, and put them, like go to market strategies, like the distribution channel and all these
yeah,
details.
yeah.
So yeah,
Nice.
so this is yeah. I don't. I thank you for
Right. So,
asking.
so
I
does
never
that mean that
considered this.
all of the information I'm discussing with you is now, you're gonna take it and use it as your own? That how it is? Because we're both competing towards the same customers.
No, no, not necessarily.
Are you sure?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
just
yeah.
making sure.
I
Yeah.
I
Okay.
don't oh, okay, so this is good to mention. So when it comes to the citywide service, I go for the local startups. You know, um, the only place where I go and I have geographically, set up myself in Middle East, North Africa region. So this is where
Yeah.
I play. So I'm not after your clients, Joseph. Don't worry.
No, I don't actually believe that there's competition. I mean, it's a big market. Everybody gets their own share, and if we can benefit from each other's knowledge and experience, that benefits
Yeah,
everybody. It's a win-win situation. Yeah,
100%. And Joseph, because you're working with multiple companies now and multiple startups, like it's like maybe a traditional question, but again, I'm interested to see what are some of the upcoming innovative technologies that you think it will be uh, um, can become the next trend or can become the next hype. Like, what are you seeing in that space?
wow. Okay, that's a difficult question to answer. I would say that the default one would be AI. Any now, it's so funny that we like being in this industry for so long, you kind of start to see the patterns happen. It
Hmm.
was first of all, it was let's say in the early '90s or the early 2000s. It was websites with Flash or ActionScript. Then it was called uh, cloud. Back then it was just website, back end, front end, tech, full stack. Now it's called cloud. Then you see the emergence of smart technology, which is connected devices or connected Internet of Things. And now I
Yes.
think the latest hype or the latest rage is AI. So you see so many tech startups, um, having products that have nothing to do with AI, but then they put the AI label, at the beginning of the name, and it's like VCs come and pour money into it. Do you guys have AI? No. Okay, why did you put AI in the name? Oh, because VCs can then give us more money. So
Yeah.
I think AI has a lot of potential. The way that it's being used is amazing, and I would say it's not a hype in the sense that it's at the beginning of the hype, but there's so many things that you can do with it, and it's only getting started. So hopefully, I think um, we would probably, and I'm guessing we started seeing, AI on the edge, AI in devices, AI in the cloud. Um, Everybody wants to include artificial intelligence or LLMs technology. So I would say that's one of them. Uh, Anything else that comes to mind? Yeah, I think that's the latest rage now. And Web3, I guess, but Web3, I never actually. Um, well, from that's a personal perspective, I guess. I never saw it materializing into something that could be, like a trend setting. I saw it
Hmm.
as maybe like a novel way of doing things, but it's not like a new technology to be used, even though it is, but it's not. I don't
Yeah.
know if that makes sense.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, that
100%,
that's
Joseph.
yeah.
Um,
And also blockchain, yes, was hyping up, but never achieved anything important, unfortunately, except
I
let's
think
say cryptocurrency and Bitcoin.
I think this is exactly why nothing happened because people started um, to tie blockchain to cryptocurrencies, and I think this is where they in my opinion, the biggest challenge for the technology is people they start to think that any time the word blockchain is included in a
Yeah, it means
product or service.
cryptocurrency.
Yes, oh my God, they would say that means it's a cryptocurrency and it will not be good to do it, blah 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 blah. So which is uh, not the case. But anyway, yeah, but I
Yeah,
agree with you
yeah,
on the other
unfortunately, yeah.
ones. I will agree with you on the other ones, Joseph, and I think there will be kind of um, blending between technologies sometimes, so mixing AI with something else to take it to another level. I can see this. Um, Joseph, like we've been like same. I think we share the same thing. We've been in the market for a long time. So, how do you keep yourself updated with all the new trends and the news and technologies? Well, what's your secret sauce? Let's say.
Secret sauce. Well, I sleep very little. Um, yeah, so I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I
Mm,
work out about an hour and a half. while working out, I read. Basically, I think if you're involved in technology, you need to read a lot and process a lot of information. And I guess one of the reasons I joined the tech industry and computers back then, it wasn't tech, it was, computer science from my perspective, is because it was my passion since, I can remember. And some people, join it because they, wanted to find, sorry, sorry about the
No worries.
background noise. Yeah,
No
so
worries.
the reason I joined computer science was because I had passion for it, and I wanted to get involved in that side of the business, or
Hmm.
that side of technology. And mm, the way I keep myself updated is get my hands dirty. Where this term, hands on, hands off. I'm very hands
Yes.
on. Everything that I was a part of, I built, or I started building in the beginning and then handed off the work to somebody else. It's not a theoretical thing for me. It's more of, actually working and implementing something myself. And yeah,
Hmm.
I subscribe to so many news outlets. Uh, I read a lot of tech summaries, tech documentaries, tech documents. And something that I like to keep saying, it's a saying for me. If you're not up to date, you're out of date. So
Yeah.
that's how it is for me.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can say more or less this is also my way of getting updates. So recently I started even to try to leverage AI because I was subscribing to a lot of feeds. So now I can give some of these feeds and ask the AI to summarize them to me. So instead of me going all of them, because with the start of the podcast, so I need to prepare. But I need to keep up to date also as well about what's happening around me. So I start to leverage AI. But yeah,
Yeah,
like
I was reading your last post. What was it? 11 podcasts in 1 week. How did you manage that? You
yeah,
sleep?
uh, uh, yeah, I can say healthily. Yeah, I get like at least,
Okay,
I
that's
get
good.
at least, I get at least like, let's count, minimum 6 hours, I
7,
would say.
6 hours.
Six to
Yeah.
seven.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's,
6 to 7.
yeah, that's,
Yeah,
that's the max for me.
yeah, and also I am, the early birds club. So except on the weekends, on
Yeah,
weekdays,
definitely.
I wake up 4:30. So
Okay.
because I do also like kind of 45, not as you, but it's a bike or a jogging. And
Yeah, that's good.
then,
Yeah.
I would be doing, I would be reading a book, and then I would be preparing for the podcast or releasing a podcast
Yeah.
episode. Yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah, but by noon time, I'm done and I have the whole afternoon. So either I will be doing meetings with clients or, like people think that a lot of tasks you do, but believe me, you can achieve a lot. Like, maybe you are a night guy. If someone is listening, I can understand you as well, and you might be doing it in the opposite way. So you finish a lot of tasks and a lot of projects at night. So yeah, 100%. Uh, Joseph, like
Yeah.
as we coming to an end, I have a very famous question. Anything you wish
Yep.
I had asked you, and how you would answer it?
Wow. Okay. Um, should that be a philosophical question, or can it be
It
anything?
it it, it can be anything.
Um, I haven't thought of it, but I would say, if I'm going to the Middle East anytime soon, and I would answer it by saying yes.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Yeah.
When we gonna see you here in Dubai?
Oh, well, I've been planning. Yeah, I've been planning to come to Dubai for a while now. But everybody keeps telling me, wait until November, September, November, until the weather gets better. Is that true? Is it November?
Uh, like of course now some people it depends on how I would say your body resistance to the weather conditions, right? So if you can handle in degrees Celsius, like for people who are listening from North America, if you can handle
Yeah,
40, 42 with a
yeah.
high humidity, like up to, I would say sometime 80, 90%. By the
Wow, that
way,
that
like,
sounds harsh.
yeah, but what I hear from some people, especially, you know, Westerns who've been living in Southeast Asia, and they tell me about the
Yep.
weather conditions. So it's not like more bad than there, like Singapore or Malaysia or any other place in Southeast Asia. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it
definitely.
it can become hot. Yeah, of course, like the weather is amazing between, I would say, mid October up to end of April. So from weather perspective, but from business
Yep.
perspective, the country is open for business. I would say all the year,
Yeah,
and
of
we
course.
like now it was July,
All
and
the time.
and I did some visits, and I was roaming around the city, and I saw it's buzzing actually. So yeah, so yeah, that's good to hear, Joseph. Like you'll
Oh,
be
yeah.
here.
I thought about a question that I think maybe you should have
Sure.
asked but didn't. Yeah, so there's something that all startups or all businesses ask about, and it's been um, a topic of discussion for a while for me, at least, is that they wonder, or they think that the cost of automating their business is high, so they never
Mhm.
invest or never anyone to look into it. And then I've been asked this question so many times, like how much would it cost to automate our business? And they think it's a very big or very large investment. And my answer has always been the same, and it's what is the cost of not automating your business, right? Because
Yeah.
doing because startups don't have a lot of money to invest in hiring people, so they end up doing the work themselves, like business owners or founders, and they end up struggling to find time to have a work life balance, and eventually miss out on some of the things that they couldn't do because of the lack of time. And that's why I always say, think about what you could lose if you don't automate your business, and you'll find out the cost then.
Right, 100%. And thank you for bringing this, Joseph, because also maybe you have seen this as well. I'm very big fan of automating. And for me, anything that I repeat more than two times, the first thing I start to
You
think
automate,
about
right?
how I
Yeah,
can
I'm the same.
automate. Yeah, and I tell businesses like, guys, you might be sitting on a gem, because if you automate, these tasks, and I'm talking here not about only startups, I'm talking even about small, medium businesses, telling them, guys, like if we automate, like these three steps, um, this guy who's doing these repetitive tasks, he might be so talented that he can, for example, help you in your marketing instead of doing data entry, just for
Exactly.
this
Exactly.
per se. Or for example, like if you are losing your time on, following up in spreadsheets, who you should call next, like you could have automated all this and you don't need to be there. Like, you can automate your calendar, you can automate your email communications. Of course,
Yeah,
still you need some
exactly.
supervision. And by the way, this is not AI. I'm not doing any hype, and Joseph is not doing any hype. It's just automation. You can do a lot of automations over there. So And
Yeah, and it
actually,
doesn't have to always be a custom made automation. It could be, you using some kind of system that's online. You can subscribe to it, pay $10 a month and get it done, right? But
100%.
that if you don't look at your business and how repetitive tasks are wasting your time, then you never look into how you can automate these things and make your business faster.
Right, right, 100%, Joseph. And this is one part of also like what I try to convey to startup founders and to small medium businesses, and I start to see some traction because the concept, they know about it, but they needed guidance, and this is where people like yourself and
Yeah.
me comes into the picture, so we can put a lot. Joseph, where can people find more about you? Where they can
Well,
find you?
first of all, I guess the website, which is azarconsulting.com.au,
Hmm.
they can hit me up on LinkedIn. Um, just
Yeah,
look me up. I'm the big guy with black t-shirt. Yeah, these are the easiest ways of finding me, I guess.
that's great. I'll make sure that I include all these links in the episode description.
Thank
Joseph,
you.
thank you very much for being on the show today, and I hope
Thank you,
you
Mehmet.
know what we discussed today. It will resonate with some of our audience. And as usual, this is how I end my episodes. Guys, if you're listening to us, watching this, don't hesitate to tell me your feedback. I'm always open to hear your feedback. If you are interested to be a guest on the show as well, you have an inspiring story you want to tell us. It doesn't have to be always technology, but it should be related to startup and entrepreneurship. Don't be shy. Hit me with an email also as well, or on LinkedIn, and I will be more than happy to arrange it. I have, guests from all around the world. I'm blessed by having, this mix. And also, as I said, keep the feedbacks coming. I'm enjoying reading them. And until we meet in the next episode, thank you very much. Bye.